All right, we are live for the first edition of the Mike and Mario show for 2023. Excited to be back. It's been a while, but nevertheless, here we are. Lots of things to touch on. But before we move forward, Mario, Happy New Year. And how's things on your end, my friend?
Happy New Year to you as well, Mike. And things are well here, and hopefully everything's well on your end as well.
Yes, everything is well, man. Excited. 6 days into it, and lots of things to talk about, man. We have economic indicators out now, and I'm more optimistic about the trajectory of precious metals this year than ever before. We got the crypto crackdown, we got CBDC noise, we have you name it. So lots of things to cover, and I guess it's Friday, so let's just talk about some of the primary figures that were given, showing more of how the global economy or economy here in the eastern or western hemisphere is contracting severely. But then again, the Fed is posturing as if they're big and bad and going to stick to their guns. So who will give first, the economy or the Fed? Just to get things started off, what you thinking?
Well, I spoke about Alan Greenspan. He made a few comments this week at a fund management company where he's an advisor, and he said that the Fed is going to stay pretty hawkish and tighten, uh, and that basically the Fed wants a recession, and unless there's a huge accident, financial crisis in the markets, some kind of trouble, they're not going to pivot or loosen monetary policy. And even though, like you said, we're seeing weakening PMI data in the U.S., we saw the Canadian PMI today. It crashed from
Yeah.
like 51 to 34, which is huge. So I think. Yeah, it's all upside down because if the economy is doing well
Mhm.
in a world of sound money, for example, if we have plenty of jobs, people working, people, the unemployment low, that should be a good thing. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, in this upside down world of funny money, we have what happens is they create all this funny money out of thin air. They create jobs that are really not sustainable,
Mhm.
that inflate things. It's not really based on anything real.
Yeah.
And then you get the rising prices, and they have to pull the plug.
Mhm.
All it does is hurt a lot of people who have to get a job and they don't know what's going on. For example, they're not aware of how the system works. And
Yeah.
even small businesses, they put a lot of money to work and like hire people, and then the Fed pulls the plug. And that's why I think the Fed should be banished in all central banks, because
Yeah.
they interfere in the natural flow of things in the economy.
Yeah, I do agree. And so just let's look at some figures real quick, and then we'll get into the metals activity, then just move right along. And so, yeah, once again, I can never give these figures that we're giving much credit, just because in the midst of a dying economy, they always want to make things look better than what it really is. So here we got the non-farms, 223. Expected was, I guess, 200K. So once again, as I mentioned before, Peter Schiff mentioned that, that looks good numerically speaking, but yet it's just more so people having second and third jobs. And as
Yeah,
you mentioned, not earning as much as well.
yeah.
So,
The other thing about the non-farm payroll, it's done through a survey of a tiny percentage of all the companies in the country.
yeah.
So in 18 months' time, that will probably be revised down, most probably. We saw last month the Philadelphia Fed.
Hmm.
They went through the numbers for all the states for the second quarter in the U.S., and they said that the BLS overestimated non-farm payroll by a million, which basically
Yeah.
means that we were in a recession in Q2. Of course, the Biden administration came out and had a go at the Philadelphia Fed, saying that. But we're gonna have to wait till 2024 to find out what the Q2 2022 number was. So,
Yeah. And,
and
and
yeah,
no, and by that time, the economy will be in much worse shape than it is now. And so here's just some other figures that you kind of hinted at. The PMI, 49.6, well beneath that 55, but a 50-ish. And then we got, as you said, Canada here, 33.4. Like,
I
it's
mean,
like,
look at that. That was expected at 51. And the thing is, above 50 means that the sector,
Hmm.
the purchasing managers for the manufacturing and in Canada, I assume it's like manufacturing and uh, services all put together.
Yeah.
What they're saying that less than half of them are seeing things improve. So
Hmm.
when we drop below 50, usually means we're in a recession.
Yeah. All right. So let's move along right away. So for those who are tuned in, welcome to the live stream. Feel free to throw thoughts, ideas, suggestions out there. We'll try to jump on a little bit of everything here. We have maybe 5 or 6 different topics. Here are some headlines. So just to keep things more, I'll move on. I want to just share with you just a zero hedge. This shines more light on some of those figures with some graphs that really should make you think. And then there's one thing that stood out to me here, but it says ISM service slumps to contraction, factory orders plunge most since that event that took place a couple years ago.
Yeah,
And so, say that again.
I like the way you said that event.
Yeah, that event, just because I mean, just
I
things
know.
aren't too friendly these days. But here's just some visual aids here, highlight more of the things we're talking about, the downward trajectory. And let me see here. Keep moving, man. Let
The
me go
thing
back
is,
here.
well, Canada and the United States, they're each other's, I think, biggest trading partners.
Yeah.
So if Canada is like going down the tubes, its economy, it means the U.S. is not buying as much from them, and vice versa. I would say.
Yeah. Here is a tweet included in that I thought was very interesting. It says the Fed is usually in easing mode when both ISM services and manufacturing or new orders are below 50. It says we're now there. So first time where the Fed has not necessarily decided to admit that it's time to back down. So we'll see how this goes, man.
Well,
What else? Go ahead. You got thoughts?
Bram Bernanke, his academic life was mostly dedicated to showing how the Fed uh, kept policy too tight in the early 30s after the stock market crash, and how it caused. He says that's what caused the Great Depression.
Hmm.
So, and that's why he was trying to justify that they had to keep doing, do QE. That was his big thing. We will never let deflation take place.
Hmm.
But I'm not saying we're gonna. I think we already have deflation right now. If
Hmm.
you look at deflation as the drop in the money supply,
Yeah.
M2 actually has been dropping since March. So it's not out of the realms of possibility that we could have a deflationary collapse if the Fed keeps things too tight. But the
Yeah.
thing is, in the 30s, we had sound money. We had a gold standard. We had silver. Now we don't. So we could have a Great Depression with rising prices of all the basic necessities,
Hmm.
which is much worse, I would say, because, and that's why it's so important to have gold and silver. And people think, oh, in a deflation depression, gold and silver will go down. No, they will be the only thing that will give you some value.
Hmm.
And that's what having money in the early 30s or mid 30s, it was like having gold and silver. And people who did have money, they did very well because a lot of people don't realize in the Great Depression, people didn't just lose money in the stock market, they lost money by keeping it in the banks because
Yeah.
a lot of the banks collapsed. So I think the Fed is in danger of, if they don't watch it, they could very well tip everything into a huge collapse. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And then just to piggyback on that, as you were talking, a graph came to mind that I just came across from the confounded interest to kind of highlight some of the things you're talking about here. But here's 3 downward trajectory measurements that he highlighted here in reference to the job numbers and hourly earnings. So it says here we have US M2 year over year. And I even saw an article, I think it was earlier this week, talking about for the first time in however long the M2 has turned negative. Um, in reference to the recent spike or whatnot. And so here we just have some figures here of everything trending downward. So we got the M2 year over year trending downward. We got the headline inflation year over year trending downward, as well as hourly earnings. So this to me already signals that recession is not even a question. It's more so when we get beyond that point or get into something deeper, what will be the narrative then? Like, will they admit that, okay, things are not looking good, we need to now step in, or what? So I think it's all of that fake posturing that they're trying to put out there, man. But yeah, evidence is there, man. There's no hiding it, and people are starting to feel the pinch.
I
All right,
think
go ahead.
I think the Fed made a huge mistake, of course, not just the Fed, but the Bank of England, the ECB, in doing that massive QE in 2020, 21,
Mhm,
and cutting rates to zero. And then they kept things rates low and the balance sheet too high and kept for too long. And now they're trying to overcompensate for it.
mhm, mhm.
And
Now, do you think? I mean, mistake or a reactive response to September with the repo situation, referring to the banks having problems, and of course, the banks matter more than your average, Joe, in
well,
reference to the monetary system.
that's what Greenspan said this week. He said the Fed wants a recession, which basically means the Fed wants people to lose their jobs
Mhm,
because they're doing too well. And but he said the only time the Fed will pivot and loosen is when Wall Street is in trouble. He didn't
mhm,
say Wall Street. He said the financial system, but the financial system is basically Wall Street. And like you
yeah,
said, 20 September 2019 and the repo crisis. Yeah, that crisis culminated in 2020. We were told it because it was the because of that event in 2020, that disease. But it was, I would say, that was more of a cover and an excuse for
mhm,
them to do that massive QE.
yeah,
Because if they had bailed out Wall Street again, like they did in '08, I
mhm,
think there would have been a lot of anger.
yeah,
So, what's the best way to bail them out? Well, you lock everyone in in their homes. That also, I would have said, yeah, that also stops them from spending. But they miscalculated, I think, because when they reopened, everyone started spending again, and all that cash was there, and it created the rising prices, not
yeah,
inflation. The inflation was created by the Fed and the government. People need to remember that.
yeah.
We didn't create the inflation; is the banks and the government.
Yeah, and now as a result, let me share this with you. So now as a result, here's the reverse repo chart, and just look at this anomaly to the right of the screen that is beyond comprehension. And so
Yeah,
at this current moment, it's continued to trend upward as a result of all that excess liquidity. Now, you know, and moving forward this year, is the goal to make sure that this remains contained, or because they're talking about, I think I shared a graph with you about the Fed balance sheet that was 95 billion per month, and so far we're half, maybe 44 billion through. But then again, like, does those things really actually matter at this moment, given all the other events in the mainstream economy, in your opinion?
if you look at the Fed's balance sheet going back, I don't know, 30 years,
Mhm.
and you will see like they started tapering or doing not tapering, but doing QT
Yeah.
2018, 2017, and it was very like smooth.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing now. It's very smooth. But then all of a sudden they had that repo crisis and they had to turn around and do QE again.
Mhm.
That reverse repo, what it tells me is that there's no problem for fundings and for repos for the
Mhm.
banks because the Fed learned the lesson maybe of 2019.
Yeah.
Uh, Zoltan from Credit Suisse, he said, "Yeah, there's no problem with the repo and like funding with the banks, and but the problem now is the commodities." He says because you have the BRICS who control a lot of the commodities, and you probably saw.
Mhm.
Uh, I think beginning of December, the Saudis and Gulf, the Gulf countries, they made the petro yuan deal with the Chinese.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the problem might come from somewhere else this time, not in the repo market.
Yeah, so we will have to wait and see. But in the meantime, speaking of precious metals, man, I think like that this is going to be the year that we see some real fireworks. And so I saw a article headline. Robert Kiyosaki. Once again, he's another outspoken individual, but he was, a lot of people throwing out some real some real high figures. And I'm assuming that's all subject on things breaking or them losing control of the methods in which they are able to squash the price down. And so I want to touch on just the LME situation from last year with the nickel situation. And so here's that article I shared with you about the chairwoman or chairman, stepping down. And so that's, I think, something that will probably fly under the radar, but they have that lawsuit. 400, and let me get this figure out here. London Metals Exchange sued for 456 million over canceled trades. And on top of that, we have, as you also pointed out, LME and
Well,
SK out of gear. Yep.
that if you go back to the legal case there,
Yeah.
the Elliott management, I think the guy in charge there is Paul Singer,
Mhm.
and he's very litigious. A few years ago, he sued the Argentine government for defaulting on their debt.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's funny because the London Metal Exchange is just an exchange for base metals,
Yeah.
not for gold and silver.
Yeah.
A lot of people get those confused. There used to be a futures contract for gold on the LME, but LME is basically base metals, and it's actually owned by a Hong Kong company.
Mhm.
And the people that the big company they bailed out was a Chinese company by canceling these trades. I think the LME doesn't is not going to, it's over 100 years old, but its reputation has been shot.
Right. So as a result, you don't see this. You don't see LME having more issues further this year, being a situation that could trickle into the other exchanges in reference
Oh,
to
I do.
mimic gold and silver.
Well, I do. I sent you that article that says that LME stocks are at 25-year lows. So
Yeah.
I think the problems are still there. Um, and I think gold and silver as well. We're seeing I think the supply of silver overall stocks in the COMEX, they had been rising a little bit recently,
Mhm.
but they've dropped the other day. Yeah, LME, you see, their stock buy was still very low,
Mhm.
and I think the same thing is going to happen to gold and silver, even though they're not. Gold and silver are traded
Sure.
on the COMEX
Right.
and also the physical market or
Mhm.
paper market as well. Physical and paper, LBMA
Yeah.
is like an over-the-counter market in London. So yeah, there could be trouble. And
Yeah. And then also factor in this past year we were introduced to, I think, three new markets with the Moscow, metals situation, the Indian, as well as the as you were hinting at a meeting, or the Saudi Arabia and Chinese, trying to do exchanges on the Shanghai exchange. So it's going to be some real fireworks this year, man. But in the meantime, amongst all the government debacle issues in the UK, it's outright. You got your central bank admitted months past about recession, and it looks like things are trending further or deeper in that direction. And so, give us some of the updates of what's happening in the UK. A lot of people feel the UK is going to lead the way, or leading the way rather.
yeah, I mean, we are probably in a recession. I mean, one thing that is going on is that we're supposed to now be fiscally responsible, that
Mhm.
inflation is going to come down. But I see that we're continuing to spend and bail people out. For
Yeah.
example, there's a story here that I don't know if you've got it. I've sent to you about the fact that Sunak, the prime minister, is going
Mhm.
to unveil a new energy support scheme for UK businesses because it was going to expire now in March, but he's going
Mhm.
to roll it over for another year. So he's going to support all companies in the UK. So they're supporting all households in the UK till
Mhm.
2024. That's going to basically that's deficit spending.
Mhm.
And the other thing that's going on right now is we're getting a lot of strikes, not just into December, but
Yeah.
it's spilling over to uh, to this January, and the NHS as well, the National Health Service, that's in a dire situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the strikes, they're a symptom of the fact that the currency is becoming worth less and less, and
Yeah.
that people's wages uh, don't cover this, and that they're struggling to survive. Because why would they want to disrupt everything and go on strike? I mean, I wouldn't want to do that
Mhm.
if I was earning a wage that was fair and kept its value. But that's what inflation does
Yeah.
when you have the government and the central bank printing money and deficit spending, the currency loses value.
Yeah, and also I think that it appears to me that the UK wants to, I guess, lead the way in reference to that whole digital pound. And so I see they asked some questions. I mean, so I also see the PBOC article you sent as well, where even though they put the technology out there and it's available, people aren't really taking to it as fast. But I think also that has a lot to do with the economy is not completely deteriorated to where it's still an option. And I'd imagine if things get to the point where they probably see it going or where it actually will end up, people will use it by default just on some out of sheer desperation. And that's why I think they want to have everything set out and ready to roll in
Yeah,
case. But I think hopefully there's resistance to it. Ultimately speaking.
I would say, that I went to the bank, actually, to my branch of my bank, I think back in November, and I
Mhm.
had a word with the ladies that worked there about digital currency. They said, they work for a big bank, and they said, not really. We're not really. Uh, they said cash is still going to be around. So if you talk to people in the street or friends, no one knows about
Yeah,
digital currencies. I think they wish that they could bring it on. I'm not sure if uh, if it's going to succeed.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and if there were to be a huge crisis, and I think already we are in a crisis already,
mhm,
everything is disrupted. Um, yeah, we'll have to see. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have it doesn't mean we should put our guards down,
yeah,
but we also see, you sent me that article that the Fed is working hard on a digital Fed coin or currency, and
yeah.
it's weird because there are some people out there who think the Federal Reserve is fighting the World Economic Forum. But if they were fighting the World Economic Forum, why would they be trying to bring in a digital currency?
Yeah, and that's where like if you read through the World Economic Forum's, some of their panels as well as their website, you'll see that they are in complete agreement with the rollout of centrally controlled currencies beyond what we have now. And so I just think that this year, and I showed this article here, and I kind of anticipated this beforehand that FTX, as well as all the other crypto exchanges that were unregulated, because there's no clarity as to how this asset class will be treated, I think was all a part of the plan. And FTX, going belly ups now. SBF, you see an article about him visiting the White House or connecting with some of the White House officials or whatnot. And I think this is going to be used as a reason why they need to protect us from a unregulated and even in the ECB. Let me share this with you here. Let me see if I can find it. Uh, and even the ECB, they're talking about needing to protect the consumers from cryptocurrency. So here, just from
Yeah,
yes,
because they said it's like there's no backing, and it's like a casino,
right.
a bit like their government bonds. Their fiat currencies are only backed.
That was one of the things that caught my attention. So here it says crypto regulation and taxation won't be enough to build solid foundations for digital finance. We need a risk-free digital settlement assets. That's why the ECB and central banks around the world are working on both retail and wholesale central bank digital currencies.
Mm.
Yeah,
It
unbacked. I'm
almost,
thinking like unbacked, huh?
it almost seems like all the crypto and the Bitcoin thing was created by the central bankers to create problems and then
Mhm.
bring in a solution. It was sold to be decentralized. It was like,
It's for
I mean,
so to be disruptive.
yeah, disruptive and everything. And it came out just after the '08 crisis, when
Hmm.
people woke up and started questioning the fiat currency system,
Right.
and wanted to bring back, started looking at gold and silver. Uh,
Hmm.
so, and I started looking into crypto in like 2012, and I thought this is really interesting because it sounded really good.
Yeah.
But the more and more I think about it, and the more and more it evolves, it seems like the other
Perfect distraction.
yeah, and the other thing that's happened, the central banks haven't really had to build the infrastructure. It's been done by all the uh,
Mhm.
coders or programmers out there in
Right.
the last 14 years.
Right.
And yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Right. I've always been skeptical in reference to that point, and is it being a perfect digital distraction? Just because it's knocked out, gold and silver from a majority of the younger population's mindset, because they never knew what money was in the first place. But now all of a sudden, the entire infrastructure for CBDCs is being promoted and pushed behind the scenes, waiting on that perfect event. So,
Yeah, because
and
I
yeah.
don't see any reason. I think our banking system, at least here in the UK, works really well
Yeah.
without these. We already have a digital financial system.
Correct.
I can send money like instantaneously to some people, and or you can send it over a day or two, but it's
Mhm.
very efficient. So this is just an excuse, and maybe also, uh, yeah, it's their way of saying, "Oh, we need a new system," because they know this current dollar system is going to collapse. But
Mhm.
I don't think it will work because it's not going to be backed by anything.
Right. I hope that is the case. Let's acknowledge Chris. It says, "Happy New Year, RTD. When CBDCs are issued, will hyperinflation eventually ensue?" I think CBDCs are designed to prevent, just because they'll be able to, at the click of a button, remove and then put a time limit on currency in real time. So therefore, they're going to try to control the elasticity of currency that's available for the retail. So we'll see, but I don't think. I think we'll have a lot more, a lot greater problems beyond just the financial sector if it gets to that point. So that's my two
Well,
cents.
someone sent me I think something, a paper from the BIS
Hmm.
actually, or is a video by it's a Korean guy that works for them, the Bank for International Settlements, and he was talking about Fed coin and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And it would, in the beginning, it would run parallel to the Federal Reserve note.
Hmm.
So whether it would create hyperinflation, I don't know. It would, I guess, if they have to do QE or cut rates
Hmm.
and use CBDCs or Federal Reserve notes. I think they'll run side by side. It's a little bit to like the early 1900s. I think
All right.
people were using more and more banknotes,
Hmm.
but they're still using gold and silver
Cool.
coin.
Yeah. Right.
And eventually, I guess, the 1929 crash, and then when the banks failed in 33, they used that as an excuse to take the gold out of the system.
Yeah.
So that might be something that they will do now. Take the cash out of the system, physical cash, if there's a collapse, and then bring in the CBDCs. And they had to revalue the price of gold higher
Mhm.
in 34. So like you could be right about inflating the system away.
Yeah. So speaking of which, having a variety of currencies running in tandem, all trickle with events, with individual events bringing or pulling certain currencies out of circulation. I use a visual aid that I've put together, just talking about the changing forms of America's money and how, if you going back, unback paper, back paper, gold and silver, and just trending steadily throughout the decades. When the introduction of electronic currency, it was still unbacked paper out there, and then now we're in the point where we're overwhelmingly in electronic currency. Now they're rebranded to digital dollars or whatever. And the physical is also being pushed out bit by bit. So it's been an ongoing situation in the currency game, period. So,
And we've gone from a world of where money was something solid, valuable as a commodity, to
yeah.
where it's really I owe you nothings, as John Exter, who was actually a central banker, said after 1971. He said, "Well, the dollars I owe you nothings." I think
Mhm.
what they want now is to have total control over how you transact in the digital world.
Correct.
and they're going to invade your privacy, and they're going to be able to tax you. You might not have to declare your taxes. They'll just take it because they'll track everything you do,
Right.
and
Right.
that's really bad.
Right. Right. And I think that goes into, having from permissionless with the ability to exchange cash outside of their eyes. Like, what was it? What's the Mexican BIS guy, the fat bastard. I can't think of his name, but how he
The
was saying with the
Pars-
$100 bill.
Parsons.
Yeah, with the $100 bill, they can't see and determine where that goes. So slowly but surely move from permissionless to permissioned economy where they control and track everything, man. It's inevitable. That's the way they want it to flow. So, all right, we'll wait 30 minutes. Want to get some questions in? Also, we got to look at the metals, man. We have to look at the metals just because I think this year will be a very crucial year. And so here we have just today's activity in USD terms. But I was looking at the last 3 months in particular. And this goes back 6 months here with when gold bottomed out below 1650, and now it's been trending upward. And of course, we've been getting more news about central banks. Let me share this article with you real quick. Central bank gold purchase highest in more than half a century. So they all are aware of what's going on out here, man.
Scroll up, back up. What's this website?
This is World Socialist website.
World Socialist.
Yeah. So
Oh, you're a socialist, Mike?
no, I just was going through for gold purchases and it came up, so I clicked on it.
But no, yeah, and gold, it's started the year well, not just in dollars, but also in all other currencies, like in pounds. We're near
Yeah.
the all-time high in pounds and in the euro. Uh, am I expecting fireworks for gold? There could be, but that's not the reason why I have gold and silver.
Right.
I think it's more long term. I know that over the long term, the people who manage our currencies, the bankers and the politicians, they're like incompetent. So
Yeah.
currencies are going to continue to be debauched, and the flip side of that is that gold and silver, they're not going to do well or anything, but they're just going to look better. That's what it's all about. Yeah, they might uh, at some point really give you an extra edge, because everyone might just realize, a lot of people might realize, oh, we need to get in, and maybe that's when you do exchange some of your gold and silver for some assets that you think are undervalued.
Yeah. Because there's going to be a fire sale pretty soon. All right, so let's get to some questions, man. Feel free in the chat to either
Yeah.
bring to our attention some stuff or ask a question. Go ahead. Would you see something?
Someone said the low blood pressure is not here tonight. I don't
I
think.
see LBP. I see low blood
Oh, it's
pressure out
here?
there.
Okay.
I see
Uh,
him out there. Let me see.
if
I
there's
saw
any
something.
questions,
Here's
what?
one. If you both could go back in time in the US and UK, when and what would you change to make things better now?
I'll go for the UK.
Go ahead.
I'd go back to 1694, and then stop the Bank of England from being created. There you go.
Okay, yeah. So I would definitely, go back in time and do something with the central banking concept, just because the money changers or the trust and all those oligarchy families hijacked our money for sure. But then again, yeah, I would deal with a lot of other societal issues
Or there's a lot of
as
things.
well.
We could go back to 1914 to Sarajevo and stop that Archduke from being assassinated, and then World War One wouldn't have started. But maybe it would have started no matter what. So
Yeah,
it's difficult question,
yeah.
but I think that would have been. I think World War One is like is a big part of what's happening now. We have constant wars still,
hmm
a lot of inflation, because prior to World War One, when you had wars, yes, a lot of the governments went off gold and
hmm
started printing, but after the war, they'd go back.
Right.
But we don't seem to have gone back.
Right.
We just stayed on the fiat.
Right. And clearly that was intentional. Each major historical event usually leads to some type of shift in monetary as well as geopolitical events. So what else we got out here? Don't change the past, Mike and Mario.
Is
Sure wouldn't
McCarthy
exist.
is
Yeah.
McCarthy getting elected today? I don't know, Mike. You probably know better than I do about McCarthy.
Good. I mean, other than knowing that they're on their sixth or seventh or eighth vote, and so I personally haven't
It's
dived
up
too
to
deep.
11 already, almost.
So that's the thing. Like, and so I don't know the political game as well, but I'm wondering at what point, how many votes before, so you give up or you move on, or I wonder what the next steps are. That's what I probably have to find out, because I saw yesterday somebody put a vote out for Trump.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It
so
was a representative from Florida,
yeah,
Getz.
I'm like, is that
Yeah, they could.
sincere? Is that a kiss butt move? What?
The Speaker of the House apparently doesn't have to be an elected representative,
Yeah.
so you could go up there and say Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Let me see here. Okay, what else we got here? Maybe four. So yeah, people throwing out a lot of time frames. And so Rolf said 1619 with black slavery. Yeah, those are some of the issues as well. But like, how do you change that? Well, that would be
Yeah.
my thing. Like, as an
Well,
individual, how would I change that?
the other thing as well, though, people don't realize, yes, there was black slavery, but there was also the indentured.
Indentured servitude. Yeah.
And there are a lot of them were like poor Irishmen and Scotsmen
Hmm.
that they were like almost like slaves. They
Yeah.
could work their way out of it.
Hmm. Let me see. Richard's work says, do you believe we are at a point at which preserving your wealth should be dominated in resources that keep you become self-sufficient? What good is money if laws enforce you to spend it? Preserving your personal property resources that help you be self-sufficient. Yes, and so that goes beyond just metals, of course. I mean, it's being self-sufficient require food, supplying your own food and everything in between. So having all those things covered would definitely go a long way in this transition, I think.
Well, I think they're going to keep the currencies going.
Mm-hmm.
Is what he means by when the money's bad or whatever.
Yeah.
But having hard assets, yeah, is the way forward, because even in countries where like Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, even when things are bad, you have to have some kind of currency.
Yeah.
The trick is to have, to use that currency for day to day, but have your assets denominated in the assets that are going to hold their value or go up in value. And then you have to exchange once in a while, that asset for the currency.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah. Good point, man. Another thing that came up, somebody just mentioned Elon Musk, and I remember you sent me that article about Chat GPT and how that boy is just taking over the airways, and Microsoft. And where's that boy? Where'd it go? Let me see if I can find it. But yet I'm very skeptical of most things, but that Chat GPT and the AI movement is really taking off right now. And I did see that Microsoft decided to add it, and not knowing that Bill Gates and his crew is all investors in it. Where'd it go? I can't find. I don't know if I have it.
The other thing is, I saw that Peter Thiel is getting involved in it and trying to bring it to the market. And Peter Thiel, he's a globalist. He comes across as a free market libertarian, but he's like involved with Palantir, which is like basically they work for the CIA. So I think this. I signed up for this Chat GPT just to look at it, not because I think it's a good thing, but it's a bit like a search engine, and you can say, how did the closing of the gold window in 71 affect the dollar and inflation? And it comes up in less than a minute.
Yeah.
You do
Very
other
detailed.
Yeah, you do other things, and it doesn't have any clue. So I think there's still a long way to go. And I think the other thing with this Chat GPT, you can make your own videos. Someone that doesn't do content. I guess it's a big competition for real people like you and I, but I think it's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
And one thing I would say is that if these people are in charge, you can bet it's going to be controlled. It's not going to be.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to be slanted. Like I was talking to one of the fellas earlier this week, and he talked about typing in certain keywords, and it was steering towards very globalist fueled agendas. Like it was promoting them as being somewhat good, and rather than just being completely biased and neutral on its outputs. And then
Yeah,
also there's AI technology has been implemented in so many things to deal with the internet and the fourth industrial revolution between robotics. It's disrupting the educational space. They're even putting this in schools now. And so teachers, anything where it requires instantaneous information
yeah.
can be regurgitated through the system. So,
And teachers are they're probably not going to be teachers anymore in the schools. You're just
mhm,
going to have people overseeing the children,
yeah,
the students, and they're going to be taught by this AI. All the teachers will do is like make sure that they take a break after 45 minutes for the next period and then go for lunch.
right.
I think it's really nefarious, to be honest.
Lawyers, I've seen like drawing up contracts and all types of things with that, and coders, developers. I mean, so it's like it can do a variety of things. So that's yeah. So improving your skill sets in this decade moving forward is going to be key. But then it's going to be you got to be very strategic in what you do, because if a computer can do it better, more than likely the cheaper route will be go with the computer. Let me see here. Here's a question from UK Finance. It says, your thoughts on the Kraken being the next health issue for locking us down? The Kraken. What UK Financial? What exactly the Kraken?
Is that the crypto exchange? Kraken? No, I think I know what he means. They're trying to push. It's like the Omicron last year, but
Mhm.
I don't think any of this rubbish is gonna. It's to do with that health crisis we had in 2020.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
It's,
yeah, that the IBFFFZ7,
yeah, I don't know,
sub
but
variant or some crap.
yeah, they're
Uh,
trying to push us here and to go back to like wearing those things and
yeah,
like distancing from other people, and
yeah,
they're using the excuse that it's because the NHS is collapsing, but I don't think people are going to buy into it.
yeah. Speaking of AI, here's something from Rolf. It says, once AI can trade the markets, it's over.
Oh, actually, Rolf, I actually try to I typed in onto his chat GPT today, GTP or GPT, and I said, which asset class do you think are the most undervalued this year in
Mhm.
2023? And it replied, it said, I can't provide financial advice. Please
Really?
please check with your financial advisor before investing. So
So yeah, that was clearly built into it.
I'm sure the guys at the top will have they already have something built up. It's called the algorithms.
Yeah. So here's a BlackRock has a AI
Yeah,
trader bots
amazing.
for over a decade.
Yeah, it's called
Right.
the yeah.
So yeah. So all this technology that's been introduced to us is literally the dumbed down version of what
Just
they've
yeah,
already been using.
it's just to control us, and
Yeah.
it's not for us to benefit from it.
Right. Right. Very true. Very true. What else? Okay. Anything else out there question wise? So we have what the remainder of this month. What are some things that worth keeping an eye on outside the
Oh,
obvious?
yeah. I it's the World Economic Forum, the Davos meeting. It's
Next
coming
week.
up. Yeah, I think it's coming up next week. And
Yeah.
I subscribe to the FT, and
Mhm.
they sent me an email yesterday saying, register to get fresh news from Davos. You know,
Uh-huh.
2023, and I did, even though I'm not into the World Economic Forum, of course. But there's the old saying that you have to keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep an eye on what they're saying over there
Yeah.
because it's very important. Even though some people think they don't have much power, but I think they do have a lot of power and influence.
Right. They definitely have a lot of influence. Just look at the Build Back Better narratives and things like that that came out. at the beginning of this whole experimentation process. But here's something else that caught my attention. I'll share this about one of the topics they might discuss, and it has to do with controlling the narrative. And so this is just from Reclaim the Net. It says, Work Economic Forum will plot how to counter, that long word there.
You mean truth?
Say that again.
You mean how to counter truth?
Correct. Okay, that's a good way of putting it. Yep. Yeah, exactly. How to sell us on their lies. And so we'll see how that plans out. But this is January 18th is, I guess, the kickoff date for Countering Threats in the Age of Black Swans is the panel that they're going to be talking about that. So, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't mind hearing what they have to say. But on the open forum, whatever they're saying is scripted and it's going to be mild. But what they say off camera, behind the scenes, when doors are closed, will be the actual outcome.
I noticed that the World Economic Forum website now, you have to register and sign into it.
Yeah.
A year or so ago, I don't go on it regularly, but somehow I went into something. You didn't have to do that, so they are aware, that people are
catching on.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I remember to look at some of their graphs and their interactive visualizations on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Before, you were able to click on some things and just go scan, but now you having to sign up. I'm not putting my name in that crap. But they have it all mapped out, of course, according to their own plan. What else? It says Trump. So yeah, Trump. He's very selective on what he puts his name behind these days. What else? Mario, my friend, did a driver awareness course in the UK on a Zoom class. UK will be the #1 CBDC in the cards.
Driver awareness. It's me. I haven't done
that. Let me see here. So it says quantum computing will enter the mainstream and everybody will be able to use it. It'll be far easier to use AI for day trading. Yeah, we will see, man.
Yeah, I think quantum computers are still far into the future.
Yeah, or they would like us to think that. So speaking of that, I just not long ago posted something on my Telegram, but here's an interesting headline that's just worth, I guess, glancing at. It says Chinese researchers claim they cracked encryption with quantum computers. So
that would be bad for Bitcoin, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be bad for banking. Anything to do with on the internet would be bad. So, but it just says here, according to the Financial Times, Chinese research said that they have used their algorithm to factor a number with a 48 bits on a quantum computer with 10 qubits. And I think that's very low. But anyway, it's just a matter of when, not if.
For this.
Exactly.
Today is it's supposed to buy silver, aren't you, Jenny?
What?
Silver squeeze today.
Today's a silver squeeze. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I bought some yesterday, but yeah.
I thought about it, but I held off.
This is
every day should be a squeeze.
10-ounce Anglo hard. I've had it for quite a while.
Yeah, man, I keep my weight.
Yeah.
What else we got here? All right. Well, Chan and then nice, whatever, sugar coat, claws, poke. I don't see much out there. This world is not a clown show.
15-minute cities. Yeah. Have you heard about that, Mike?
What is that?
Well, Oxford Council here in the UK, they're basically saying it's to help traffic and fight climate change. They're going to make it so you will only be able to shop within 15 minutes of where you live. And if you want to drive outside that area, you're only going to be able to do it, let's say 100 times a year, and that you're going to have to pay a toll to get out of where you live. So a lot of people think that these 15-minute cities is where they want to drive the whole world into, so that we won't have cars, we won't own nothing, and we'll be happy in our little medieval village. You won't be able to go beyond the digital walls. Some people think it's a bit too exaggerated. It's a conspiracy theory, but we've seen in the last 2.5 years that a lot of things that were thought to be conspiracy theories have become the truth. So yeah, it's something to think about, these 15-minute cities.
That is, I mean, yeah. So I mean, I know the whole concept of smart cities, and that's why they have those 5G things and everything out there, heavily populated in urban areas. So yeah, I assume that's a part of that. Bob says, time for humanity and the world to declare the World Economic Forum a terrorist organization along with the World Health Organization. That would be nice, but when all
Yeah.
your politicians are compromised or complicit with the agenda, it's going to be kind of hard because they've all been selected for a reason. And more than likely, all the newer figures have already been World Economic Forum approved. So
I think
good
they
luck
would
with that.
declare us that before they're declared that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
The general
yeah.
public.
Yeah. They domestic terrorists. They teach parents who had problems with their kids in school and went to the board meetings. Were labeled as domestic terrorists
All right.
over parenting. So yeah, it's out there here. Let me see. Khan says slavery has never stopped. Oh, 100%. It's never stopped. I think the monetary system and the use of fiat currencies, taxation, and all that stuff. It's many forms of slavery for sure. Just being ironic. I hear you, man. All right. Well, it says, here's something else. It says UK be the first for 15-minute cities and CBDC.
We're leading the way.
Leading the way to the future. All right. Well, we about 50 minutes, Mario. We could go forever, man. But I guess a great opener for the new year because there's going to be a gang of stories to share our 2 cents on throughout the year, man. But let's end on some good news. What are you excited about for the start of 23 moving forward? What excites you, Mario?
Well, I think the fact that inflation is going to come back, I think, in spades, and I think the fact that we're prepared for it is going to be good for our community.
Yeah.
Because things are not going to get better in terms of economically. You can already see it. So I think the move towards hard assets is a big opportunity, but also the community is important. Having friends and being
Right.
nice to people more and more, and not getting angry and like judging people. I think is going to be important as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know there's a lot of people who don't want the best for us, but we got to rise above that.
Right. Paying it forward. Like, finding ways to be generous and giving and of course loving. That's going to be key because it's going to be a lot of people out here in need of support, especially on the health side of things. Because another issue over here and globally, of course, is the sudden demise of a lot of individuals that participated in that experiment. So demographic is going to be a big demographic shift moving forward and what brings with a lot of emotions, man, because you never know, so love your loved ones, basically. You don't ever know who, when your time is up. So life is precious. More people are finding out that. So what else? It's 50 guns like Texas. UK citizens own 50 guns like Texas. LBP. Well, people, happy Friday. Be blessed, be safe. Continue to get your weight up and everything in between, and just be grateful for what you do have, because more than likely, if you're tuned in to us here, then you are a part of the very fortunate in comparison to the rest of the world. So count your blessings, man. Be grateful. So anyway, Mario, have a great weekend. Back at it next week, same time, same place. And my other people out there, be blessed, be safe. I'll see you later. Peace.